Welcome to Space Mysteries, your trusted source for breaking headlines, global insights, and sharp analysis from around the world. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. The world is watching, holding its breath as events unfold in real time. A major geopolitical and economic storm is gathering, casting a shadow over the world's most powerful economies and alliances. Today, July 31st, 2025, marks a turning point. Canada and the European Union have taken an unprecedented step, publicly refusing to enter into any new major trade and security agreements with the United States under the returning Trump administration. This is a move that few could have predicted just a few years ago, and it signals a dramatic shift in the global order. This is not a quiet disagreement. It's a unified declaration that sent shockwaves through global markets and political circles. The world's financial centers are reeling, and the political fallout is only just beginning. The message from Ottawa and Brussels is clear: the old ways are over, and a new, more confrontational era in international relations has begun. Leaders are no longer mincing words, they are drawing lines in the sand. For decades, the transatlantic alliance was the bedrock of global stability, providing a sense of predictability and shared purpose that shaped the modern world. Now that foundation is cracking, and the trust that once held these nations together is eroding rapidly. This move follows escalating tensions and a growing sense in Canada and Europe that their interests no longer align with the America First agenda. Protests and diplomatic standoffs have become more frequent, highlighting the widening rift. The immediate consequences are staggering. An estimated $2 trillion in potential future business erased overnight. Markets are in turmoil, and the ripple effects are being felt in boardrooms and households alike. The announcement has created uncertainty not seen in generations, leaving corporations and investors scrambling to reassess their strategies and brace for what comes next. At the heart of this standoff is a question of reliability. America's closest allies no longer see the U.S. as a predictable partner. The sense of mutual trust that once defined these relationships is now in doubt. Canada and Europe are now actively seeking to build a future less reliant on American markets and security guarantees. New partnerships and alliances are being explored, and old assumptions are being challenged. This strategic pivot has been years in the making, with quiet negotiations and contingency plans behind the scenes, but today it became official policy, broadcast to the world. A new chapter has begun, one filled with uncertainty and possibility. The world is watching to see how this story unfolds, and its ending is far from certain. The headline is staggering: $2 trillion in future business gone. This figure represents the value of long-term trade deals, investments, and projects that were about to reshape transatlantic commerce. With a single announcement, that entire framework has been dismantled, leaving a massive economic vacuum. American companies now face exclusion from a market of nearly 500 million European and Canadian consumers. Projects and jobs tied to these deals are frozen, their futures uncertain. Wall Street reacted instantly, markets plunged, and the value of multinationals with European and Canadian ties tumbled. This isn't just a problem for investors, it hits the retirement savings of millions of Americans. Beyond the panic, the loss undermines America's long-term competitiveness. Canada and Europe will now set global standards, potentially sidelining U.S. industries. The United States risks isolation, forced to play by rules it didn't help write. In the world of global aviation, one casualty stands out above the rest. The shocking termination of a $43 billion Boeing aircraft deal has sent shockwaves through the industry and beyond. European airlines with strong backing from their governments abruptly canceled a massive order for new Boeing jets. Their main reason? The unpredictable and increasingly volatile U.S. political climate, which they say makes long-term business too risky. This deal was more than just a business transaction, it was a cornerstone for the U.S. aerospace industry, promising tens of thousands of high-quality jobs and supporting countless American families. Its sudden cancellation is a devastating blow, not just to Boeing, but to the entire American supply chain, from small part suppliers to major logistics companies. Instead of turning to Boeing, Europe is now deepening its partnership with Airbus, using economic statecraft as a powerful form of leverage in global markets. For Boeing, layoffs now seem inevitable, with ripple effects spreading across entire communities nationwide. Local economies that once thrived on aerospace contracts are bracing for tough times ahead. The rivalry between Boeing and Airbus has escalated beyond business. It's now a full-blown geopolitical battle, with each side representing more than just aircraft. Europe's decision signals a new era, where major purchases are increasingly about political alignment and strategic interests, not just price tags or technical quality. The economic and political ties that once closely bound the Atlantic allies are fraying fast, replaced by suspicion and competition. The grounding of this historic deal is more than a business setback. It's a clear sign of a new, uncertain reality for transatlantic relations and the global aviation industry. Canada's rejection of new U.S. agreements is not a sudden move, but the result of years of simmering disputes and a growing sense of being taken for granted by its southern neighbor. The relationship, once defined by close cooperation, has become increasingly strained. Tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, imposed with little warning, and the tough, often contentious NAFTA renegotiation left deep scars on both the Canadian economy and national pride. Many Canadians saw these actions as betrayals by a supposed ally. Canada's government now insists on true reciprocity and mutual respect, values it feels are missing from the America First doctrine, which prioritizes U.S. interests at the expense of long-standing partnerships. Recent threats of new tariffs were the final straw, convincing Ottawa that the cycle of uncertainty would only continue. After careful deliberation, Ottawa concluded that entering new long-term deals under such volatility would jeopardize Canada's economic sovereignty and its ability to make independent decisions. In response, Canada has actively diversified its trade, signing major deals with the European Union and Pacific nations. This strategy has reduced its reliance on the U.S. market and opened new opportunities for Canadian businesses. These new partnerships give Canada leverage and confidence to stand up to Washington, showing that it can chart its own course in global trade. The message is clear. Canada is no longer a captive market, but a nation ready to assert its independence and protect its interests. Public opinion strongly backs a tougher stance. Any leader seen as caving to U.S. pressure would face significant backlash at home, making this a political necessity as well. The decision is both a foreign policy statement and a domestic mandate, reflecting the will of Canadians to stand firm. Canada is now forging a more assertive path on the world stage, determined to shape its own future and strengthen its global influence. The EU's unity with Canada marks a turning point for the 27-member bloc. In the past, the US could divide and conquer, but now Brussels, Paris, and Berlin stand together. This unity is a response to the first Trump presidency's trade wars and criticism of NATO. Europe's rejection is rooted in a clash of values. The EU champions green transition and a rules-based order, while the Trump agenda threatens these priorities. Strategic autonomy is now Europe's guiding principle, acting independently, building its own tech giants, and investing in defense. The Boeing-Airbus shift is just the most visible example. The crisis accelerates Europe's push for self-reliance. By acting as a bloc, the EU can deter US tariffs and retaliate effectively. Any attack on one member is now an attack on all, fundamentally changing the US-EU dynamic. The fallout hits Main Street America. Jobs and businesses are on the line. The loss of $2 trillion and the Boeing deal directly threaten American workers, from factory floors to tech startups. Farmers lose access to European markets, risking lower prices and unsold crops. The green tech sector loses a massive export market, stalling future job growth. Uncertainty freezes investment. Companies delay hiring, expansion, and innovation. Why invest for a market that could be closed by tariffs at any moment? US companies are now at a disadvantage as global competitors fill the void. The damage could be permanent. Once lost, markets are hard to regain. Foreign firms will seize opportunities, making it even harder for American businesses to recover. The economic pain could last for years, even if relations improve. Today's crisis is the result of nearly a decade of mounting tensions. The first Trump administration challenged the pillars of the transatlantic alliance, imposing tariffs, criticizing NATO, and withdrawing from key agreements. These actions eroded trust built over 70 years. U.S. withdrawals from the Iran deal and Paris Agreement forced Europe to act independently. Even after Trump, allies remained wary, seeing how quickly U.S. policy could shift. Canada and Europe began Trump-proofing their policies, building alliances that could withstand another America First administration. The 2024 campaign's promises of tariffs and NATO re-evaluation were the final catalyst. Allies saw a second Trump term as an intensification, not a repeat of the first. They chose to act preemptively, drawing a clear line to protect their interests. The decisive action we see today is the culmination of years of strategic hedging. The path forward is fraught with difficulty. U.S. relations with Canada and Europe face a period of retaliation and escalating rhetoric. New tariffs and countermeasures could push all sides into a damaging trade war. Rebuilding trust will require more than a change in tone. It demands a fundamental shift toward genuine partnership. Canada and Europe need consistent, reliable behavior from Washington, and assurances that agreements will be honored. This won't happen overnight. It's a long, uncertain process. Meanwhile, Canada and the EU will accelerate efforts to build alliances less dependent on the US. A new global order is emerging, with America no longer at the center. The question, can shared values like democracy and rule of law overcome current divisions? Only a recognition that US prosperity is tied to its allies can rebuild the partnership. Without it, today's rift could become permanent. Today's events are more than a diplomatic spat, they're a seismic shift in the global order. Canada and the EU's coordinated refusal marks the end of the post-war transatlantic alliance as we knew it. The economic consequences are immediate, but the strategic implications are even deeper. America now faces isolation as its former partners build new alliances. The America First doctrine has left the US sidelined by its friends. The risk, a spiral of tariffs, trade wars, and poisoned relations. Rebuilding trust will be a generational challenge with no guarantee of success. The world is moving forward, with or without the United States. How America responds now will define its place in the world for decades to come.